Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Serving Up Success. I'm Dr. Nawtej Dosanjh. And I am joined this week, as usual, by
Bruce Cramer, your favorite corporate cockroach.
I just can't be that cool. I'm Angie Snowball, the Renaissance woman.
That was really cool.
Yeah, wasn't it cool? Well, the cool part is I come with the drink. So this week we are having a Moscow Mule. I don't know about you guys, in the States, mules became very, very popular. We have Kentucky mules, everybody mule, but this one was the first. So cheers with the Moscow Mule.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Look, guys, this week's episode, I have been looking forward to so much. Let me explain why. I need to learn a lot from you two. It's all about managing global teams or working in global teams where you can get run ragged. You can be 7 days a week. You can be 24/7. And so this week's, I need hints from you guys. I tell you why, because I did work in a global team. I led a global team up until about 8-10 years ago. And I burnt out because I literally was talking with people from San Francisco, London, Boston, Dubai, and Shanghai. And I was doing it virtually every day. And I thought I was superhuman. I was barely human, if truth be told. So this is, I'm really looking for you guys to help. Cause I never found the answer. I tell you what, I never, ever from the answer. So I'm really looking forward to understanding how we can manage this time. Working global teams sounds so exciting, right? And it is exciting, but it's tough. It is really tough. And I know you guys, know that. So I want to just dive straight in and get your first reactions about what do you think are the main things to watch in working in global teams? And I mean really global, more than just 2 locations, multiple locations and across at least 3 time zones. Angie, I'm going to just come to you first, just to get your sort of initial thoughts on what are the challenges and what we can do about this.
Yeah, I see 2 pieces to this. One is the actual time zones that we're managing. And I think the biggest challenge is we have to find a way to rotate it, because when you're the only person that is doing the 6 a.m., the 2 p.m. and the 6 p.m. or the midnights, because there's ones that don't fall in there, or that is burnout. That's like Nawtej said. I did that too for an automotive place that will remain unnamed, and it was awful. I burnt out. I quit. I stormed out like a baby. I was a mess. It was a terrible experience. Worst job of my life. It was not Ford. I love you guys still. But that was really bad. So I think as a leader, you have to organize that. And the other thing is bigger speaking calendar. Holidays are different. Vacation styles are different. Our cultures are very different. And if you don't understand them, you do not respect them. They can even build resentment. When you're like, why are these people never at work? Why do they do this? Why are you leaving today? It's a Monday. Why is that such a big day? Who cares? I don't get one of those. Like, it's really important to build so that when we talk about the holidays and which days not to disturb people, that we also take into account the culture. So those are my 2 big things, is making sure you're rotating the team and making sure you understand the underlying culture when you're trying to set up boundaries. Bruce, your turn.
Great points, Angie.
I'll probably go a little bit more deeper with my answer in the next segment, but off the top of my head, I've got one comment. It's not about scheduling. I think a lot of times when we talk about working across the globe and we're dealing, and all of us have done it, significantly, I might add, working across teams globally, we make it all about scheduling, and it's not. It's about redesigning the work. It's reshaping meetings. It's reshaping
Yeah.
boundaries in terms of how we want to converse with one another. There's a lot more to it. Certainly everything Angie said, but there's a lot. And I'll get more into that in our next segment.
I think this is a great introduction from both of you. I want to highlight, before I hand over to you, Bruce, I want to highlight probably the biggest difficulty in my mind. And that is, when you are remote, people can do their own thing. It's very difficult to drive consistency of the product, of behavior, of how you operate. And people can do their own thing if you're remote. How is it that we handle that? And I think this is a good segue into Bruce telling us how he's going to redesign work. Because I think you're right, because there is no schedule that you can do that can accommodate San Francisco, London, and Shanghai.
Right.
There just isn't.
No.
So, Bruce, I'm looking forward to what you're going to say about redesign work, and I'm taking notes.
Well, I'm going to outline 5 key factors to redesigning work, and then I got some questions for you too. But as you said, it is about redesigning work, and it's not just availability. So the first thing, we do talk about scheduling in terms of where's that 2 to 3 hours of overlap. So you want to get out there, you want to take a look at the time zones involved, and then you want to say, okay, from a practical standpoint, what 2 to 3 hours makes the most sense for everybody? And then you want to guard that damn window of where there's going to be overlap. When you book into that time or schedule a meeting, that meeting deals with decisions, problem solving, or real collaboration requirements only. It's not for status updates. If it doesn't require discussion or a decision, it doesn't belong in that time, because that is extremely valuable time. The second thing is embracing, and we talked about this in an earlier episode, this whole idea of async work. You do your part now, I'll do my part later. That has to become the norm, because outside of that one window where everybody's together and you're doing something together, the bulk of the time is going to be spent on async work. And so what do I mean by that? Well, updates, metrics, reports all belong in writing. And if you're and you talk about trust, if you're going to ask for these updates, make damn sure you're reading them, because there's nothing that ruins credibility more than getting onto that 2 to 3 window and now rereading the updates live. Everybody's going to bow out. The third thing is record the damn meetings. Not everybody needs to be there. If they're not going to be speaking, or they're not really part of the decision, there's no need for them to be showing up at 6 a.m. or 10 p.m. Record the meeting. We have great tools now, AI tools that package that meeting all up and will give everybody what decisions were made, what are next steps. And, if they can join live, great, but it's not required. That's respect at the end of the day. Fourth, stop micromanaging. If you're saying stuff like, are you online? Did you send me a message? That's all BS in this new world.
Or even looking for those little green lights. Maybe you're not asking them, but looking, are you available? Because all that leads to is people like faking crap. All that leads to is their green lights on all day. Just don't do it.
Make sure whatever information you're sending is clear deliverables. Also make sure you're sharing progress. You want to make that always visible. And then last but not least, you do want to set guidelines around when do you expect a response? What are good times? And what tools are you going to use to respond with based on the nature of the messaging? And then last but not least, rotate the damn meetings. If one group is constantly being asked to be inconvenienced, eventually that's going to build a lot of resentment. So you got to mix
And
it up
burnout.
a little bit. The other thing is, and we did this a lot, especially when I was in a large conglomerate of medical, I should say, entities throughout the world, is that, you can set it up quarterly, monthly. You want to know the audience that you're dealing with, because a lot of people, they got to pick up their kids from daycare or drop them off. So you don't just want to be bouncing willy-nilly every other week. We'll just rotate every other week. No, put a schedule out there so everybody can be more proactive within their lives to make sure this time will work. And so I would say that's the last thing. So it all comes down to designing for overlap, for async type work, document your decisions, sharing the burden of when people are going to be required to come into that 2 to 3 hours window that may not be the most convenient. And if you do that, your organization will thrive, and there will be much less chance of burnout. So with that, I'm gonna go to Angie.
I feel like I'm being picked on
What
today.
happens to psychological safety or engagement if you don't do those 5 things I just described?
Well, I mean, it's like I kind of butted in on you there, but I did have a boss who was like, we had a system called Same Time. It was like instant messaging 100 years ago. And you could set your away message, your here message, and all that kind of stuff. And I hated her because I swear she spent more time seeing what we put on there. And she was strict about it. She's like, if you're going to a meeting, I want you to set, I'm at this meeting. I'll be back at 10:50. I got so mad one day. I put on my Same Time. I said, I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be back approximately 10:10. She's like, Angie, that was unnecessary. I'm like, you're unnecessary. Like, I'm like, you're unnecessary. How am I supposed to work? I waste an hour of my day setting this stupid message, and it interrupting everything, interrupting the flow. And at the bottom line, I had no respect for her. I had no trust. She had no trust in me. I have no trust in you. And I had no respect. Therefore, how well did I do my job? Not well at all. I spent a good part of as soon as I got home, I was like, what other job can I find? What do I have to do to not get fired until I find a new one? Anybody who's worked with me is like, oh my God, because I'm not like that. I'm the person that most of the time my bosses are saying, gee, Angie, stop. You're making everybody else look bad. Stop working so much. Go home. Stop doing this. But that job was awful. And that's one reason why there was just no trust to the, are you online? Are you available? And then also that job, I would often have to work till 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
And instead of saying, Angie, what happened? What was wrong? What did you find? What was the problem? Why did that take so long? I would come in, she goes, that's really great that you worked that late. I appreciate you putting in your time. That's the wrong thing to do. What you did was tell me you don't care about my health. You don't care about my well-being. You don't care about what I'm doing because you didn't ask me, why did that take so long? I shouldn't have an employee that's working, what is that, 16 hours? They started at 7. I don't do math. I mean, that's ridiculous. Nobody should be working that long. And she didn't even care why. So I think these are the moments where, like, if you're focusing on the time people are putting in to get something done, you're breaking trust, you're breaking respect. And at the end of the day, there's no productivity, no efficiency, and it's a total waste of time for everybody. So I think that's something we really have to let go of. And that's both globally and non-globally. That's just as in a workplace, you need to let that go. And then also rotating. I mean, on that team, worst job ever. But we kind of had the guy who would do Asia, right? And so he had stupid hours, and you really didn't get to see Greg because Greg was the Asia guy, and he was just kind of the weird guy in the corner. And then the European person was pretty normal because, in the middle of the day, but there were all these different segments of where we were working, and different people kind of got assigned to those times. Well, that broke down any team engagement. It broke down any cross-working because we didn't work with each other. You didn't, and there were no communication channels set up. And that Asia guy got real tired of working 6 p.m. to, 6 a.m. That was awful for them. And then they hate us. I'm like, Greg, I didn't do anything. He goes, yeah, but you're the European person and your schedule doesn't suck, So these are things you really need to think about when you're putting people in place. And maybe you have someone who wants to do that, but the lack of communication was a real problem. Like you need to talk to people, build channels, and do exactly what you said. Because that's what I saw mostly was teams breaking down, which results in no productivity whatsoever. So what about you, Nawtej? You are on the other side of the pond, hours ahead.
So I've got to say, that was such a full, complete answer that you covered every single point.
Because I like to talk.
No. But I thought it was brilliant because it was concise, it was terse, but said in a way that everybody could understand, everybody can relate to. And I don't want to bore everybody by just repeating things for the sake of it. So I'll add something slightly different. And it's coming back to my initial question, which is, how do you sort of, with all these things in mind, doing all these things and designing work in the right way, when you have remote, diverse teams, and Angie, you brought it up earlier as well, the cultural thing. There are cultural differences even between Brits and Americans, even though we speak the same language. We're not the same. We have different ways of looking at things, right?
Oh, yeah, you do. Mostly glass half empty. Just kidding. Nawtej is not that way. No. He's not.
Yeah. It's like our Christmas show. You came on with Christmas sweaters, and I'm sort of, all very conservative.
Yes, exactly. He's like, what?
But that's to me, that's still the biggest hurdle. Trying to figure out how to understand one another and overcoming those dilemmas, because if we think in different ways and we speak in different ways and words have a slightly different definition and meaning, we're going to misunderstand each other quite a lot. I suppose I'm setting you up talking about misunderstanding each other.
Yes, wasn't that beautifully done?
There, just to set you up for your section about communication. How good was I just then?
That was perfect. He did. It was like it was rehearsed. It was so seamless. It was perfect. Yes, but good one. And I do like that we started with the culture. So let's start at the top level, right? The top level are the holidays, the bigger part of our culture. So, for example, in one of our shows, Bruce was like, if I answer you on Christmas Eve, then there's something wrong with me. Well, there are cultures in this world, believe it or not, that really don't know which day that is because it's not their holiday. It's not important to them. It is just a Tuesday. And that is so hard for us to believe. But there are other holidays, specifically for Americans. There's a lot of different religious holidays in India or China or Japan that we are not very educated on. The world's getting better, but if you're ancient like me, we didn't study this crap at all. I mean, I went to countries I never heard of in school. So it's like a whole different world, right? No, seriously, I'm like, what? What is this place?
Actually, before we carry on, name a country that you went to that you didn't know about before.
Liechtenstein. I'm like, how is this not part of another country? It's so tiny. It's right next to other ones. Nobody ever told me about this one.
The size of a motorway,
yeah. I think it shocked me most because it was in Europe. And as an American, you think you know. Also because I lived 30 minutes from it.
Oh my.
I was like, what the hell? But yeah, but you have it's very different. And people are like, well, my gosh, it's a 10-day holiday. Or they're going to be gone forever. And I mean, what is this stupid holiday anyway? And I have to you have to make people see it on the other side. I'm like, what if they came in and said, guess what? Everybody's working Christmas because it's not a day to me. I mean, you would be outraged. You would quit. You'd get an attorney. You'd be like, this is unfair working rights conditions. You'd lose your mind, right? Or a big one we had actually with another company was 4th of July. Because a lot of Americans will plan their holidays with their kids over 4th of July because you already have the holidays baked in. You take less vacation time. Americans get shit for vacation times. I mean, you start jobs, you get 10 days. And you can be there 5 years, you get 3 weeks. I mean, and that's in a good place. So we're careful about that. And I said, how would you feel if they came in and said, no, we're working 4th of July. It's not a holiday anymore. You'd have to cancel your vacation. You'd lose money. You'd do all this stuff. Again, you'd be outraged. So it's important for us to look on the other side. And the same with the, some of the, I had Germans that were like really upset that we'd take these certain weekends. I said, are you kidding me? You're not even here in May and August. I don't know what you're bitching about. I can't work with you 2 months out of the year. So like talking about your holidays, talking about what they mean. And I really think this should be a tangible thing. When you're working with global teams, part of your onboarding should be, even if it's an hour, a basic overview of the cultures you're working for. What are the main things that they respect? What are their main holidays? And what are the main differences that we're going to have? I mean, those courses could go on forever, but at a minimum, you should have something in your onboarding program that touches that. And I am going to ask these guys a question. I'm going to give them a choice. So before I shut up, the next thing I'm going to say about communication is that when we go down a level, okay, we understand that we have these boundaries. Now, how do I deal with that, right? Because there will also be urgent things. And I think, again, I pick on Germany, but I'm like, dude, I can't wait until June for you to be back. I respect that you have a lot of holidays in May and vacation and bridge days, but I can't wait. Like, you have to put someone in place for me or a system in place for me in event of emergency. So take your time, label what it is, let people know ahead of time that you're leaving, let them know what to do in the event of emergency. Maybe it is contact you, but clearly define what is an emergency, what's urgent, what's not. And then another thing with global things, and we touched on this last week, is define your communication channels. What are you going to use? Are you going to use WhatsApp? Are you going to use email? Maybe use email for something non-urgent, so it's there when they get back. Maybe use WhatsApp for something that's urgent you need today. But define what you're doing with that and let them know, like, okay, if you're on vacation, I don't expect anything from you. But if I WhatsApp you on vacation, I need you to touch base. Like, just define what it is. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but define it. Okay, so that's me talking about boundaries, some of them. And I'm going to, I guess, start with Dr. D. When you think about boundaries and you've worked on a lot of global teams, did you ever feel like anyone crossed your boundaries, and how did you work with that?
So the honest answer is no. Nobody. I can't remember the last time somebody crossed a boundary with me.
That's
I
fantastic.
must have been so young, it could have been a different lifetime.
That's fantastic. So how do you make that not happen? How do you tell people how you set those boundaries and well enough that people respect them?
Good question. I think I'm quite blunt, so it's difficult to misunderstand me, because I don't really beat around the bush. You're talking about Germany there. For some reason, I'm very German in character. I'm always on time. I say what I think. I don't really mince my words, and so it's very difficult to misunderstand me in a work environment.
Yeah. And I think that's good, because Americans will sometimes take that as, you're just being another word for D. But like, that's not what's meant. And again, it's all about communication. Like the way you say it, you don't have to say, don't talk to me, I'm gone, screw you. You can say, I'm going to be on vacation from February 1st to February 15th. In the event that I'm gone, you can talk to this person or that person. If you need something urgent before I go, please let me know. I mean, that's direct, it's clear, but you're not being rude. So that's another thing, is think about how you're saying that. All right, Bruce, how about you? Did you ever have your boundaries crossed? Did you cross boundaries?
I was just
You a
going to
boundary
say,
crosser?
I've never had my boundaries crossed, but I've broken a few. No, the only thing I'm going to add to what Dr. D said, because I thought his response was very good, is if they are crossed, it's immediate feedback. I mean, immediately you reach out, to an individual or the group at large. If there's a struggle, you address it. So I think one thing we're making clear in this episode, this is not a calendaring exercise.
No.
At all.
There's a lot that goes into each calendar.
And I also thought you said something earlier. This also applies a lot just to remote work. The fact that we're in a hybrid environment in this day and age, a lot of these same principles, or activities apply. You got to be very intentional with remote work, and even more so, it becomes a little more challenging when it's across countries. Like you said, and I thought you were brilliant, Angie, in the fact that it's a big cultural thing. You really have to address that in addition to some of the more tactical things I described. So it goes far beyond the calendar.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And we could probably have a whole nother episode on asynchronous work too, because
And
that does apply everywhere.
maybe we should have another episode on
Yeah,
asynchronous.
we probably should. All right, Dr. G, wrap it up. They're probably sick of listening to us.
So, as usual, before we wrap up, we're going to leave you with something very practical. But this week, we're not going to go through it. We put together a short global hours leadership checklist. And if this is something you're interested in, please reach out to Bruce, Angie, or me, and we will work with you with it on it. It's very practical. It's not based in theory. It's super practical. But before I sort of leave you, or we leave you for the weekend, I do want to return to one thing we used to do was, what's your biggest takeaway from this week's episode? And I'll start with Angie, because Angie thinks we're picking on her, and maybe
I know. It's Pick on Angie Day. Now, I think the biggest thing, well, I'm going to cheat too. Again, the culture. You got to get to the root of it, because if people don't understand the root, they don't understand why you're making rules. But secondly, I like what Bruce talked about, and we didn't talk enough, was the asynchronous work, because that is affecting people in all areas. And this is life, career, and business too. People that volunteer, people that do this. There's so much to that. We really have to start respecting what happens in asynchronous work and defining it better. Bruce?
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's just the last thing is the scheduling. That's the least important piece out of all of this. And so just be very cognizant, be very authentic and sincere, as Dr. D pointed out, and Angie, if boundaries are not being adequately addressed, make it known. In a very kind way, have the conversations. I think because we're remote now more than ever, sometimes we don't take the time to have the tougher conversations. So give the feedback.
Right. Don't be afraid.
And so the reason I asked this question is because I wanted to say what my key takeaway from this is, and it's really what Bruce said: deliberately and intentionally design the system for remote working. Don't use a system which was designed for in-person learning. You'd think that I should have known that before, but no, I didn't. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce, for laying it on me in this half an hour. As usual, it's been fantastic for me to spend time with you guys and our listeners. And so it's goodbye from me, and it is goodbye from
Angie.
And Bruce, don't forget to hit subscribe, the like button.
Yes, like,
and thank you so much for always joining us. Cheers.
Yes.
Cheers.
Good night.